Chapter 1. Roaches in the Dark. Starr hated coming home. It wasn't that the apartment on Broad Street was the worst in Hartford, though, if there had been an official contest, Starr was confident it would place in the top 5. It wasn't the peeling wallpaper, which curled at the corners like lasagna noodles left out too long. It wasn't even the radiator, which hissed, groaned, and occasionally clanged like a ghost was trapped inside it, trying to bang its way out. No, it was the silence. That heavy, lonely silence that greeted him every evening when he pushed open his door and dropped his keys in the chipped ceramic bowl by the entrance. It wasn't always like this. Once upon a time, Starr came home to boyfriends, to laughter, to someone else's shoes by the door. Now, it was just him, his Netflix password, and the faint smell of takeout that lingered long after the food was gone. And, of course, the roaches. Starr knew they were there. He'd seen them scatter across the kitchen floor when he turned on the light too quickly. He pretended not to notice, because to acknowledge them felt like acknowledging just how low he'd sunk. "I'm not that guy," he muttered to himself. "I'm not living in filth. It's just an old building. Everybody in Hartford's got roaches." But that night was different. Starr shuffled into the kitchen, carrying a bag of takeout lo mein. He was humming something tuneless to himself when he caught a flicker of movement by the sink. He froze. "Don't," he whispered. "Don't you dare." A glossy brown roach crawled out from under the dish rack, bold as daylight, and stopped in the center of the counter. It looked right at him. Starr swore its antennae twitched in disapproval, like an old aunt about to lecture him. And then, in a voice smoother than it had any right to be, the roach said, "Starr, my man, we gotta talk." Starr dropped the takeout bag. Noodles flew. The container of duck sauce burst like a tiny grenade against the cabinet. What?" Starr shrieked, backing up so fast he slammed into the refrigerator. Nope, I'm hallucinating. I knew I shouldn't have had that second gin and tonic at happy hour." The roach tilted its little head. "Relax. You're not hallucinating. You're chosen." "Chosen?" Starr's voice cracked. "Chosen for what?" "To be spoken to by the divine," the roach said, with the gravitas of a preacher about to pass the offering plate. "Name's Clarence. Leader of the colony." Starr blinked at it, chest heaving. "Clarence. The roach." "Yes, sir." Clarence puffed out his thorax with pride. "Sent here on a mission. You've been ignoring the other signs, so God had to send in the special unit." Starr clutched his chest like he was about to keel over. "Oh my God, I've lost my mind. I'm talking to a cockroach." "You're not losing your mind," Clarence said, wagging his antennae like a finger. "You're gaining perspective." Starr pressed both palms to his face. I cannot. Do you know what it says about my life that I've reached the point where the only living things talking to me are roaches?" "It says you're ready," Clarence replied, as though it was obvious. "Ready for change. Ready for love. Ready to step into the light." At this, Starr pulled his hands down and glared. "Step into the light. Don't you things usually run from the light?" "Details," Clarence said, dismissive. "Look, we're survivors, Starr. We've been through fire, flood, and exterminators with cans of raid the size of bazookas. If we can keep going, so can you." Starr laughed, but it came out shaky. "Okay, I've officially lost it. I'm talking to a motivational speaker bug. What's next? You gonna give me a TED Talk on resilience?" "Funny you should mention that," Clarence said, clearing his throat. "We call it the Roach Talk." Subtitle: How to thrive in the cracks of life. Would you like the opening prayer? Starr screamed into a dish towel. When he pulled the towel down, there were 3 more roaches on the counter, lined up neatly like a choir. One of them, smaller than the rest with a dramatic swish to her antennae, piped up in a squeaky voice. "Don't be scared, sugar. We're here to help you. Name's Petunia. Think of us as your spiritual life coaches." "Spiritual life coaches," Starr yelped. "You're roaches. You eat toothpaste when I forget to put the cap on." Petunia clutched her thorax like he'd wounded her. "Well, excuse me for trying to add a little divine guidance to your sorry excuse for a love life." Wait, my what?" Starr sputtered. "Your love life," Clarence said matter-of-factly. "Or, more accurately, your lack thereof. That's why we're here. You've been hiding from the world, living in the dark like us. But you're not meant for shadows. You gotta move toward the light." Starr just stood there, mouth open, staring at the tiny preachers on his countertop. Clarence twitched his antennae. "So, you gonna listen this time? Or do we need to start singing hymns?" Starr fainted right into the spilled lo mein.